Hello, aspirants. Professor Sharma here, alongside my colleague, Professor Iyer. Welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we're tackling a highly relevant, deeply fascinating topic for your GS Paper 1, specifically focusing on Indian heritage, culture, and modern Indian history.
That's absolutely right, Professor Sharma. We are decoding the historical context and the constitutional debate surrounding Vande Mataram. Now listen closely, because this is a massive high-yield topic. It's not just crucial for your mains answers, but is a highly probable discussion point for your personality test. So let's put on our administrator hats and analyze this purely objectively.
Right, so here is our decode and apply roadmap for today. We'll be walking through the current context and controversy, the historical roots in Anandamath, altered context through translations, the pre-independence political compromise, and finally, nationalism versus multicultural identity.
Exactly. And that structure right there, it perfectly mirrors the analytical flow you need to build a top-tier GS1 mains answer.
Section 1. Current context and controversy. So, what's the trigger for this whole discussion? Well, it stems from a recent mandate. Back in February 2026, the government of India issued an order making it mandatory to play or sing the full song of Vande Mataram at all government events. We even saw this recently on May 10th at the oath-taking ceremony for Tamil Nadu Chief Minister C. Joseph Vijaya.
Right, and mandating the full verses has actually sparked a pretty serious debate. Opposition parties argue that, yes, the song is absolutely celebrated for its sheer literary excellence and its massive role as a rallying cry during the freedom struggle, but they argue mandating the full version clashes with the secular and multicultural values of the Indian state. Now, our job in this session isn't to take a political side. We are simply here to objectively analyze the historical facts behind why this debate even exists in the first place.
Section 2. Historical roots in Anandamath. Let's trace this back. If you look at this timeline, in 1882, the eminent Bengali author Bankim Chatterjee wrote the novel Anandamath. This is where the song Vande Mataram, which means Hail to the Mother, first appeared. But the absolutely critical thing to remember for your mains is the novel's original setting. It was set squarely against the backdrop of the Sannyasi rebellion against Muslim rule.
Exactly. And notice how the text evolved over the decades. By 1906, Naresh Chandra Sengupta translated it into English as the Abbey of Bliss. But jumped to 1941, during the absolute peak of the independence movement, and Basanta Kumar Roy publishes a different translation. His 1941 version actively sanitized all of those original communal aspects to better fit a unified freedom struggle. So the version most popular today, it doesn't quite reveal that original 1882 context.
Section 3. Translations and altered contexts. To really understand this, we have to look at primary sources. Take this direct quote from the prefatory note of that 1906 translation by Naresh Chandra Sengupta. He explicitly points out the novel's original anti-Muslim sentiment and Hindu nationalist feelings. He wrote, quote, "Two very sinister consequences are seen to flow from this conception of a religious basis of nationality. The first is the attempt to rehabilitate the Hindu pantheon, and the second is the morbid dislike of Muslims that seems to be indicated in this work."
That is a brilliant piece of evidence to drop into your mains answers. It academically validates that the original novel did express hostility toward Muslim rulers and even ordinary Muslims. In fact, Sengupta noted that the heroes of the novel were so hostile to Muslims that it actually made him hesitate before even translating it. Grasping this original context is absolutely key to understanding today's controversies.
Professor Sharma. Section 4. Pre-independence political compromise. Now, the song Vande Mataram is divided into several stanzas. The first two are purely about praising the beauty and the abundance of the motherland, very secular, but the remaining stanzas, they shift heavily toward glorifying religion and Hindu nationalist feelings.
Right, and this is where Jawaharlal Nehru comes into the picture. He actually read that 1906 Abbey of Bliss translation to get the full historical background. Recognizing that those later stanzas would irritate Muslims and potentially fracture national unity, a Congress subcommittee in 1937 passed a highly pragmatic resolution. They decided to restrict the singing of Vande Mataram strictly to the first two secular stanzas. They intentionally excluded the rest from public singing, just to maintain a totally united front against the British.
And you know, that very spirit of compromise carried straight into the Constituent Assembly debates. When the framers finally had to pick the primary national anthem, they went with Jana, Gana, But they absolutely did not disrespect Vande Mataram. Many members, especially Bengali members like Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, deeply praised the song's literary excellence. What we got was a masterclass in constitutional compromise. Jana Gana Mana became the anthem, Vande Mataram was deeply honored, but that convention of sticking to only the first two stanzas remained. It's a perfect example of how the framers balanced the emotional weight of freedom struggle slogans with the practical need for an inclusive secular state identity.
Section 5. Nationalism versus multicultural identity. So, aspirants, here is your ultimate mock interview question. Does the imposition of the full Vande Mataram challenge India's secular and multicultural foundations?
Based on the hard historical evidence we've just unpacked today, from Bankim Chatterjee's 1882 context to the 1937 Congress Compromise, all the way to the Constituent Assembly debates, you have to weigh this objectively. As the source material shows, pushing for the full song today surfaces a real tension between a monocultural identity and the incredibly diverse, multicultural foundations of the Indian state.
Spot on. Patriotism and nationalism obviously carry strong emotional and moral duties. But remember, an idea always derives its meaning from the context in which it was born. As future administrators, navigating these sensitive cultural intersections takes razor-sharp analytical skills. We really hope this explainer gives you the structured, neutral points you need. Keep studying hard, stay objective, and we will see you in the next session.